Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. So today we get to take a look at the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor Super Crew. Huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this truck for me today. Take a look at their website. That link is down in the description. So this Ranger Raptor is finished off in hot pepper red metallic. MSRP is just over $60,000. Now this is powered by the 3-liter twin turbo EcoBoost V6 that is paired to the 10-speed automatic transmission. It pumps out 405 horsepower, 430 pound-feet of torque. That power is primarily sent to the rear wheels. However, this Raptor has the 4-wheel drive system. It weighs in around 5,300 pounds. 0 to 60 is 5.3 seconds. Top speed is 107 miles an hour. It also has a fuel capacity of 20.3 gallons. You'll expect to see around 16 miles per gallon in the city, 18 out on the highway. This also has a wheelbase of 128.7 inches. Its overall length is 210.9. It has a width of 79, a height of 75.9. Its ground clearance measures in at 10.7 inches. And this also has an approach angle of 33 degrees, breakover angle is 24.2, and the departure angle is 26.4 degrees. Now for this particular Ranger Raptor, we do have a few goodies like that bed graphic on the side there, as well as a few others that I will show. But essentially, the Ranger Raptor is a baby Ford F150 Raptor. It has a lot of the similar characteristics, a lot of the same designs and functionalities for off-roading. So let's work our way to this front end design where from here, this could be an F150 Raptor with everything up front. Massive Ford logo in that grille. There's also a forward-facing camera. Plenty of cutouts to provide a lot of cooling to that engine. And then even a similar design with the headlight housing. As you can tell, it wraps around the middle section of that grille there. Everything is LED for the headlights, high beams, DRLs, and turn signals. And then there's also fog lights down in the steel front bumper. Now there's also a large cutout in the middle, along with the sensor for the distance pacing. There's active grille shutters, this brushed aluminum accent with some parking sensors, 2 tow hooks, and then there's even skid plates up underneath to give this that added protection. Now there's also a graphic on the driver's side of the hood there, and then 2 functional trim accents on both sides of the hood for heat extraction with very nice bulges that run down both sides. Now with that approach angle as well, you can see a good bit of that tire, and then you can also get a sneak peek at the Fox suspension. It's finished off in red, and with that suspension, this also has a lot of travel. There's about 11.4 inches of travel up front, 9.8 in the rear with those Fox Racing 2.5-inch shocks. So we have basically a long travel suspension setup to take this off-road. Also, this has a set of 33-inch tires along with the 17-inch beadlock ready wheels that have a nice design to them. There's also the fender flares, which go off of the front bumper very nicely. There's a trim accent just behind that. There's also the body colored mirror caps along with a turn signal and a camera. And then this is equipped with a set of steel side steps. You could use these as a rock slider if you wanted to, but its main purpose is a step to enter and exit. Now the Ford Ranger Raptor for the USA market only comes in one configuration. So we have the Super Crew with the full 4 doors, and then this short bed with the Raptor graphic, which has a really cool look. So that is an option to get that graphic package. And then in back, we have more of that graphic on the opposite side now. Raptor is just underneath that. Ranger is also stamped in the lower section of that tailgate. There's the backup camera, Ford logo, a steel rear bumper as well. And then with the Ranger Raptor, towing is a little bit less than a normal Raptor, around 5,500 pounds, 1,400 pound payload capacity. And then this does have a dual exhaust system. With remote start, we can start this up. Not all that loud, but we'll get some exhaust revs here in just a little bit. Now from there, we do have the locking tailgate, so you do have to make sure it's unlocked, of course. And we have the soft opening tailgate there. Now this particular Ranger does have this cover on at the moment, which is very easy to fold up. Obviously that's aftermarket, so just depending on what you are doing. But we do have the optional spray and bed liner to give this that added protection. Now there's also some tie-down hooks, and you have some auxiliaries over on this driver's side, so you can hook up some items as needed. So pretty standard for a mid-sized truck with the space that you have, and we even have a lightweight tailgate with the channel clamps on both sides. There's also a ruler on the very edge of it. So you could use this as a work truck, put some items on that tailgate if needed. Now, as we work our way to the interior, we have a pretty plain door panel here, but it has very nice materials on it with all the leather. There's the release handle hidden away with the grab handle right there. A little bit of storage down below, along with one speaker. And then take a look at the two-tone design for these leather seats. Now, being a mid-sized truck, we do have storage underneath, so just pull on this strap. There's also a strap on the other side, so you can do this on both sides. And then you can lock this up. You have some storage compartments underneath to place items as needed. Now, there's no storage behind the seats, so it is nice that you get that additional room. And then it's a pretty low truck, so it's easy to get in. And then at 5'10", this is where it really shines. I have plenty of room for my feet and my legs. There's also storage pockets, a little bit of storage with some auxiliaries down below. And then as far as headroom goes, I have maybe an inch and a half above my head, so I can sit upright and not hit. If you're a little taller than me, obviously it might be a little cramped, but for a mid-sized truck, it is very doable for backseat passengers. Now, there's also the armrest with 2 cup holders, and then we have the power sliding rear glass that you can open and close. So not bad for this mid-sized truck. For the exterior on the driver, we have the keypad, so you can use that as needed, and of course lock and unlock it with the door handle as well. Door panel up front is going to be just like in the rear. However, we have the power folding side mirror adjustments, window controls, memory seating, plenty of storage in that lower section as well. And then we have the power operated Raptor branded front seats with the lateral support there. Definitely more of a sport bucket style seat for this pickup truck with all the automatic adjustments down below. And they're definitely very comfortable. Now, as we move on to the steering wheel, we have solid and perforated leather with Raptor in the lower section. There's also the same colored stripe up top with all of the stitching too. And then this has a massive set of steering wheel mounted paddle shifters, just like the F150 Raptor. On this left side, there's your cruise, distance pacing, lane keeping assist, volume, and Bluetooth. On the right side, we have tuning, an exhaust note, steering, suspension, an R mode, and then a few more controls to go through that digital gauge cluster. So let's fire this Raptor back up and take a listen to how it sounds. And coming back to the digital gauge cluster now, currently you can see more of a calm screen. So we have some information in the lower left, as well as miles per hour, your range, and then odometer over on the right side. Now, if I click on the back button, we can actually pull up the main menu. So this is no different than pretty much every other Ford, where you can go into a few different modes depending on what you'd like to see for all this information. So with the Ranger Raptor, off-road is going to be something that you want to go into often to monitor the different driving modes. So you can take a look at all of that. You have pitch and roll, a few other gauges that you can look at. You can also go into towing to make sure everything is hooked up and ready to go. You have navigation, phone, audio, and settings, and then vehicle maintenance. And then on this more normal screen, you have the tach on the left side, some vitals in the upper section, and then miles per hour on the right. Now you can also go through the steering. So you have a few different modes. You also have a few different modes for the suspension as well. And then you have the exhaust note with 4 different settings, just depending on how you would like to hear that. And then the last one, pushing on R, is your My modes. So you can have everything set up and ready to go, just depending on what driving you are doing. So this is a shortcut to enter R mode and to have a lot of fun with this truck, especially off the pavement. Now on this left side, there's the headlight and fog light adjustments, dimmer switch for the gauges. We have a similar color for the surround on that air vent. And then maybe a little bit of storage up top, and then a massive infotainment system in that vertical position. So up top, if we click on home, you can pull down some icons here, like your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You can get into towing, navigation, media. You can exit out of that. If you push on the next one, we have a lot more controls and information to go through, including your zone lighting, valet mode, forward assistance. There's also calm screen control, so by pushing on that, it will take away all that information. You can just push on the screen again to bring it back up. You can also go into the off-road. So it's going to pull up the camera in the upper screen, and then in the middle of the screen, basically, we have PSI, you have a front locker, you also have your trail control, which is basically your one pedal driving off-road. Rear locker is in the lower section, And then if you push on these controls, so you have pitch and roll as well as the degrees for the steering wheel. And then last up, you have the parking sensors, which you can turn on and off. Very helpful, especially if you're off-roading in narrow trails. You don't want that constantly going off. Now, if we go back, we can push on that camera system again, where you have the top-down view, and then you can pull up various different angles. So we have all of these depending on what you need to see, even the trailer hitch mode, and then the side view mirrors. So if you are towing, you have that angle, especially when you are backing up. Now for the rest of the screen, as you can tell right now, the audio is up, but you can push on the shortcuts right in the middle here to pull up that information in full screen. So very nice to be able to go through that depending on what you'd like to see in that upper screen. And then in the entire lower section, these are all of the climate adjustments. So we have the fan speed, we also have the heated seats, as well as the heated steering wheel for the driver. You have fan speed, a few other recircs too. And then there are physical buttons at the very bottom. So we have temperature dials, we have volume, we have fan speed, AC, and recirc adjustments. There's also wireless charging down below, along with an auxiliary and a little bit of space. You have some small grab handles possibly if you need to use those. A little bit of storage with 2 cup holders on the right. And then we do have a all-new design for the shifter. The release is up front, so just by holding the release and pulling this back, we have the camera system. Then of course you can go into drive, and then the manual button is on the side. So push on that, and then that allows you to use these paddle shifters. As you can tell, the gear is over on that left side. And then back into park. Behind that we have the e-brake. There's also parallel parking, along with traction control, engine start stop. And if you push on this button here, this is a shortcut for the off-roading features. So when you push on that, that's how you gain access to all that information there. And then there's a rotary dial on this right side where you have all your 4-wheel drive selectors. There's even a trailer backup assistance. And then you do have different driving modes. So those will pop up on the gauge cluster here, where you can go through these different modes, just depending on what you are doing for the day. And then we do have a few off-road settings as well that you can go into if you choose to take this off the pavement. Now this is also equipped with the trailer braking system, so we have that on the right side, and then the engine start stop button as well. A little bit of storage in the armrest with a place to put the key fob if you need to. There's a little bit of storage just above the glove box where you have plenty of space. And then up top, there's the rear view mirror. There's also dome lights. We have the control for the rear window. There's a sunglass holder, and then there's also all of the auxiliary switches. So if you need to hook up compressors or exterior lighting, you have a factory location to put those. And here's a look at visibility. Being a mid-sized truck, it's really not hard to see all around. You have tons of glass, and it's basically right there behind you. As we set up behind the wheel now for the Ford Ranger Raptor, I didn't really talk about the interior as far as some of these other materials go. We have some nice materials that line the dash. It's also on the upper windowsill here, just to give this a really nice interior, especially for the money. Now this truck also has another new feature. If you have the vehicle running and the key fob exits the vehicle, it's actually going to lock out the shifter. So if the vehicle is running, someone goes to jump into your car, they're not going to get it out of park, which is a really nice safety feature, obviously, if you're having to exit the vehicle for a short amount of time. But behind the wheel now for the Ranger Raptor, I'm already liking these seats. Very sporty bucket style, especially for a pickup truck like this. And then with the paddle shifters, the different driving modes, this is essentially an F150 Raptor baby version. We don't have quite as much power, of course, but you have a much smaller compact truck that has the same capabilities, so you can take it more places off the pavement. Smaller, narrow trails where a large full-size truck just won't make it. Now you can do that in this smaller truck, which is really cool to see. And for the pricing too, you're right around where a lot of the other competitors are priced. In the $60,000 range, high 50s, low 60s is where a lot of the competition like the TRD Pro or the GMC Canyon AT4X is going to be. So for the money, when you compare it to everything else, it's about what you would expect. But let's drop a few gears here and give it some gas. That sounds pretty good for this vehicle. So that was in the sport mode, so that's as loud as the exhaust is going to get. And then obviously you can tone it down just depending on the driving that you were doing. But what I think is really cool with the Ranger Raptor is the suspension that we have. Now for a majority of people buying this, it's going to be seeing the pavement most of the time. Ford did a really good job with the suspension. It's nearly identical to the F-150 Raptor as well as the Bronco Raptor, and it's going to give you a really smooth driving on-road vehicle. But if you happen to take it off the road, you're going to have a lot of travel, especially with that independent front suspension. This is something that is going to hopefully articulate well and just give you those capabilities. So it'd be really neat to be able to take this off the pavement to really see how it performs. We have been able to take the Bronco Raptor off-road, so if you want to see that video, check that out. That did amazing. Probably the best of the three. If you truly want to do some hardcore, slower off-roading, Bronco Raptor is going to be the best. If you want to hit some high-speed runs, this or the F-150, depending on where you live. It's a good option for the mid-size truck market. I think I'm leaning towards the Tacoma, but honestly, this is a good run for its money. First time I've been in the Ranger Raptor, and I don't really have any complaints with it. I've been in the Rangers before, but this is definitely a great option to go with as far as its maneuverability now goes, because we're on a pretty tight road here. Looks like we have auto braking, or the reverse brake assist, which is where you can shut that off if you are off the pavement. So if you want to be able to get a little bit closer than normal for off-roading, you can do that, but that was pretty quick for that turnaround there. Shifts are also very smooth. We have that 10-speed automatic, and I'm assuming that you can play with these gears a little bit more than what I'm doing today. And with everything still in sport mode, here we go. Nice mild acceleration, we're up to speed. Now I want to talk about toning everything down. So we'll go into a normal for the dampeners, we'll go into quiet for the exhaust, and then we will go into a normal for the steering. Now obviously I'm not doing any performance style or off-roading, as tempting as that looks in front of me there. But we'll see what the suspension is like as far as how much softer it got or stiffer. And obviously you can't even hear the exhaust there in quiet mode. So it's nice that you have all of these functions and they're right here. So on the fly, you can adjust these depending on how you feel for the day. And this is what it's like to be behind the wheel for the Raptor, the Ranger Raptor. I keep wanting to call it a Bronco, but we're in the Ranger Raptor here. And I think this is a really good mid-sized truck option. Let's talk about the power plant for this, because that is going to be, I think, a key factor, especially when you compare it to the competition. We have the 3-liter twin-turbo V6, or as Ford calls it, the EcoBoost V6, which is the twin-turbo. And a lot of other companies are doing 4 cylinders with smaller engines. So we have the 2.4 liters, we have some 2 liters, I believe, and all of those are going to be 4 cylinders compared to the V6 in this. Now, what's interesting to note, though, is that with the 430 pound-feet of torque we have in this, the Tacoma Hybrid, which is a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder with the hybrid system, does have around 465 pound-feet of torque. So it has more torque than this, which is a little bit larger of an engine. And, you know, a lot of people aren't too happy with the 4 cylinders, and we have the 3-liter here with not quite as much power. So I think it's a trade-off between kind of what you are going to be drawn to. No doubt the twin turbo V6 in this is, I would say, cooler to have than a 4-cylinder. So I don't think that's really going to be a deciding factor, or shouldn't be a deciding factor. The Ranger Raptor is the only trim level that has this V6. When you go with a normal Ranger, it's going to have the 4-cylinder as well. So if you're looking to get this engine, you have to go with the Raptor. But I've been in the 4 cylinders. I think they all have an adequate amount of power, just depending on, you know, what you need and your budget, what you're looking to spend. If you don't want to spend 60 grand on a mid-sized truck, then, you know, you're gonna have to get a different engine. But this engine seems to be pretty healthy. I don't have any complaints with it. It seems like it's going to be do fine, get up to speed fine. You don't have to worry about, you know, a lack of power with this specific engine. But that is going to wrap it up for the 2024 Ford Ranger Raptor. Once again, a huge shout out to Mooresville Ford for providing this truck for me today. Take a look at their website, give this video a huge thumbs up, and consider smashing that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our daily uploads. I will see you all in the next video.